And let's work our way through some of the excerpts.
Yeah.
It's only a 15-page decision, which is good. And it's not filled with jargon and legalese, although it is still written as a legal document, and it would be very intimidating for the average person. What I think we want to do here today, and what we're going to try to do, is help everyone out there understand what she found and what she didn't find and what it all means. And frankly, she found a lot of stuff that the commissioner could use to increase the suspension if that's what he chooses to do. We begin, and we're going to go through this somewhat methodically. Let's see if that works. But this comes from one of the early pages of the decision. And she explains that based upon the record that was compiled in connection with the NFL's allegation that Deshaun Watson, a player in the NFL, violated three provisions of the policy by engaging in sexual assault, conduct that poses a genuine danger to the safety and well-being of another person, and 3, conduct that undermines or puts at risk the integrity of the NFL. Let me just stop there. Those are the 3 provisions that I thought the NFL would focus on, because when you look at the bullet points, those are the 3 that potentially fit. Sexual assault, obviously.
Right.
And then number 2 and number 3 are the catch-all provisions that are at the bottom of the personal conduct policy. Basically, if there's nowhere else where you can fit the misconduct, if there's no other category into which it neatly and easily finds a home, you can say poses a genuine danger to the safety and well-being of another, or it's conduct that undermines or puts at risk the integrity of the NFL. Now, those 3 things are important because she ultimately found that he did those 3 things. She found at the end of the day that he did it, that he was accused of it, and he did it. Sexual assault? Yes. Conduct that poses a genuine danger to the safety and well-being of another person? Yes. Conduct that undermines or puts at risk the integrity of the NFL? Yes, in part because he was saying, hey, I'm the quarterback of the Houston Texans, right?
Right.
He's holding himself out as a member of the NFL to set these massages up. He's undermining the integrity of the NFL by going around saying, I'm the Texans quarterback, setting up the massages and having them become attempted sexual encounters, as she found. That's the thing. She found that he did it. And that was kind of what I thought yesterday, Chris. When you're going to suspend the guy 6 games, you must have found he did something. She found that he was guilty as charged by the NFL, factually. The question was, how does she get from those findings to 6 games and not what the NFL wanted? We'll get to that.
Yeah.
But the thing to remember, for anyone out there that's wondering just basically what the hell happened here, she found, Chris, that he did it. She found that he is guilty.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That's the thing that jumps out about this more than anything, and I think that's where, I guess when you just think about past NFL procedures that might be similar to this or players in trouble, that's where it just is confusing as someone who's followed the NFL there. Those 3 things that you mentioned, some of the other things that I know that I talked about a few minutes ago that we're going to unpack, that's where you just go, wait, the NFL, who's, been pretty strict with any player conduct here, and then here we are with finding guilt in 3 huge categories alongside some other things there, and it's just 6 games. I think that's where a guy like me who's in the weeds like you in the NFL, I'm confused about it. I know the normal fan who's just going, wait, 6 games for 30 girls, 24 women? What? That doesn't make sense. So they're confused about it. And then, of course, we got the other side that, doesn't really want to see it that way. And they think this is like a mass conspiracy that all these women got together and framed Deshaun Watson.
Now, this is an important point as well. Yeah. And the language, obviously, the words that are used can be a little bit sensitive because of the nature of what's gone on here. But these are the words that came from the decision, and I think they're very important. Let me set this up by saying that Judge Robinson pointed out at page 6 of the decision that the NFL had the burden to prove by a preponderance of the evidence. That was the standard she used, more likely than not. She had to believe it was more likely than not that it occurred, that number 1, Deshaun Watson, during these massages where he tried to get them to become sexual encounters, intended to cause contact between his genitals and the massage therapist. Number 2, he did so for a sexual purpose. And number 3, he knew that such contact was unwanted. And one of the big issues here, and again, this gets a little indelicate, but it goes to the heart of what was happening. He's getting a massage, and while he's getting massage, he has an erection.
He's getting aroused, right.
And that becomes the
gateway,
the starting
to make
point,
the next move.
Exactly,
right.
for something more.
Right.
So that's why I say that, because this passage that we have on the screen is critically important to what I'm going to say after that. Mr. Watson has not testified that he had erections and inadvertently touched the therapist here. Instead, he has categorically denied the allegations against him, including that he ever developed an erection during a massage. It is difficult to give weight to a complete denial when weighed against the credible testimony of the investigators who interviewed the therapist and other third parties.
Right.
And some of the third parties were some of the women who came out and supported him. Remember
right.
when that happened?
I know,
And
yes.
said,
Right.
yes, when we gave him massages, he had erections.
Right.
So this is how.
Let alone the text messages, right, from some of the people that they sent to people right after those third parties as well, right? But they have that evidence as well.
But this is how, when you're the person who is charged with figuring out what happened, this is how you separate truth from not truth. You've got credible testimony from multiple people pointing in one direction, and then you've got Deshaun Watson with a categorical denial of any misconduct. And we heard the talking points. I never harassed anyone. I never insulted anyone. I never disrespected anyone, right? That was his little card that he kept reading anytime he was asked the question. Categorical denial, did nothing wrong, and even denied ever having a single time during a massage an erection.
Ooh.
And again, it's weird to be talking about these things, but this goes to the heart of what she found. And in the most delicate way possible, she found that he was lying. And see, I think it's important for us to call it that, because I think Roger Goodell will call it that. This is Tom Brady destroying his cell phone in 2015.
Yeah.
This is the thing that allows the enforcer to do some enforcing. And I know from my perspective, I get pissed off when I see someone has lied, because it's hard enough to figure out what's happened in contested cases without somebody lying. And if you show up and you testify and you lie, no matter how cartoonish it may be, no matter how implausible it may be, you have still lied. Deshaun Watson lied in the assessment of Judge Sue L. Robinson. He lied about his categorical denial. He lied about never having an erection during a massage. He lied to cover it all up. To me, that's a huge deal.
I agree, too.
And I say that because it's going to be a huge deal to Roger Goodell, and I'm not going to be surprised, Chris, if at the end of the day, it's 17 games.
Yeah, I'm not either.
Goodell's going to get what he wants.
Yeah.
Because he's got it. There's the smoking gun. Deshaun Watson went in there, testified, and lied on the most important matters in this entire situation.
Yeah, well, I mean, he lied there, right? And of course, Judge Sue Robinson lays it out. But so then, where do you believe him with anything? I think that's the problem. In the next paragraph, I'm supposed to believe him there. That's the problem that Roger Goodell is going to fall into here. And it's a tough thing. It really is. There's no doubt about it. I don't know if I think it goes 17, Mike, but I think it will go 10 to 12. You think it might go 17 after all of this? Said and done. That's kind of where you're feeling this after yesterday.
I just think that once Goodell understands the import of that passage, I think he gets sufficiently upset, and through his people, whoever crafts his decision, they will be far more blunt than she was. I'm surprised she wasn't more upset about it.
I am too.
I'm upset about it.
Right.
Because we're trying to get to the truth here. We're trying to get to the truth. I remember when Martha Stewart was prosecuted for lying to the FBI, and I remember the prosecutor conducting a press conference saying, look, this is like an umpire trying to see what happened at home plate, and somebody is throwing sand in the umpire's eyes while he's trying to figure out what the hell happened. That's what lying does to the truth-seeking process. everybody who comes to the table, everybody who gets on the witness stand has to honor the oath to tell the truth, because it's hard enough to figure out what happened when people are committed to telling the truth. Now, the realistic side of me, after practicing law for nearly 2 decades, realizes people lie out their asses all the time.
Of course.
But when you catch them, when you believe it, you don't just say, oh, well, boys will be boys. Hey, look, he didn't want to get caught.
Right.
Yeah, you never admit to anything. Like Ralphie in Christmas
But he
Story.
lied
It's
about
always
something.
worse if you admit to it.
Yeah,
but it's pretty important.
It's
it goes to the
important.
heart of the case.
And it's obvious. I think that's the other problem. It seems like there is, a ton of credible evidence to say, no, we have multiple people who can, reassure us that erections were there. We have multiple people who sent text messages or whatever to third parties. We have multiple people who did not even accuse them and are a part of the allegations, like you said earlier, that stuck up for them, that also said that. That is a blatant lie. I don't even think that's a lie. It's not a fib. It's like blatant. You're right. It's to the heart of the matter, and that's where he loses credibility. And I don't know, Mike, I should have maybe looked this up. We're trying to dive through a lot of stuff here. But I just one thing I remember from the NFL playing in it, even some players going through, incidents like this, and even me being a player rep for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at one time, the one thing that was always made clear in any procedure that I had to even be a part of as a third party, or just even with other players, is where the NFL makes it very clear that they don't want to be lied to. That you're going to get in worse trouble if we find out you're lying to us. And I know we've had some specific cases the last few years that have brought that up as well, and that's a very big, strong, point for them, which it should be. And I think this ultimately, like you're saying here, I think this is the one that's going to really hurt him in the favor of the owner's eyes and Roger Goodell and anybody else that's involved in this decision.
One of the reasons he was so aggressive about the Saints a decade ago was because they believed they were lied.
Exactly
like
right.
Greg Williams
Exactly.
and Sean Payton.
Right.
The Tom Brady destroying the phone with the implausible. Every time I get a new phone, I throw my other one into the river. They get upset, and they should, because it's hard enough to figure out what happens if people are telling you the straight story. Now, so you may be listening to this saying, well, why didn't he get 17 games from Sue Robinson? Here's the issue. It's not the facts. And see, Roger Goodell is bound by the facts at the next level, not by the application of the personal conduct policy to those facts. That's where he can say, I apply it in a different way. I respect your work, Judge Robinson, but I think it's more than 6. I think it should be 17, for example. He's got enough facts to do whatever he wants. Where she parted ways with the NFL was on the question of what is referred to throughout the decision as nonviolent sexual assault. And we reported at the time the hearing was happening, there's no evidence of violence. There's no evidence of, the traditional sexual assault that involves some element of forcible misconduct.
Yeah.
So the issue is, if the NFL is going to seek these extremely stringent punishments for nonviolent sexual assault, it's not something you can just pull out of thin air. That's her argument. You have to have notice.
Yeah.
If you're going to make a dramatic change of the rules, you have to have notice. You have to make sure that everyone out there knows what they are expected their behavior to be and what the consequences for it will be. The only other case of nonviolent sexual assault involved a 3-game suspension. I'm told that's the Jameis Winston assault of the Uber driver. And he had a history of allegations back to college, and he only got 3 games. Well, Deshaun Watson's got 4 allegations that ultimately were submitted and found to be credible, and he got 6 games. So, the NFL's still thinking there should be more, but that's the third excerpt that I want to share with you from here.
Mike, and let me just
let's
okay, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I wanted to ask a quick question, and I know it's the 4 women that were used for Judge Sue Robinson's investigation here, but does she take into account all the other ones as well?
No,
I know that's where I was
disconnect.
I was just confused by that.
That's the disconnect between court of public opinion, and Court of Sue Robinson.
Right.
In the Court of Sue Robinson, all that matters is the evidence. So there were 24 lawsuits. The NFL talked to 12 people.
Yeah.
The NFL presented on behalf of 4, tried 5, but as we've been saying, the 5th one was based on a media report, and she said, no, you got to have actual evidence. My understanding is the 4 individuals didn't actually testify at the hearing, but they had been interviewed by the NFL's investigators who have years of experience in investigating sexual assault cases, and their testimony was deemed as credible by Judge Robinson as to the information they found.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.